We move through the world with a sense of total agency. You can walk forward, sidestep left, or jump up. Length, width, and depth. In our three-dimensional space, these three axes define the limits of where you can go. But that agency has strict boundaries. You are physically blocked by solid matter, unable to pass through a common brick wall, and you are tethered to a timeline that moves in only one direction at a constant, unchangeable speed of 1 second per second. Theoretical physicists look at these restrictions as a product of our perspective. To bypass the laws of physics in one space, the math suggests you simply have to move into the dimension immediately above it. To see how that works, we have to deconstruct our world down to zero. A zero-dimensional space is a single theoretical point. It has no width, no depth, and occupies no space. It is a location with no size. When we add a single vector, that point stretches into the first dimension, length. If you existed here, your entire universe would be a line. You could move forward or backward, but you would have no concept of sideways. These lower dimensions seem like cages, but they provide the blueprint for the higher ones. By understanding what a line lacks, we can understand what a higher dimensional being gains. If we add a second vector at a right angle to the first, we create width. This is a two-dimensional plane. It has area, but because it lacks the third axis of depth, it has no physical thickness. It is perfectly flat. A being living inside this plane has a very specific view of reality. Because they lack the perspective of up, every object in their world appears edge-on. To them, a square, a triangle, and a circle all look like simple lines of varying lengths. This creates a physical barrier. If a 2D being needs surgery to remove an internal organ, a 2D doctor must physically cut through the patient's outer boundary, their skin, to reach the inside. From within the plane, there is no other way in. But as 3D beings, we can look down onto that plane. We see the patient's internal organs and their skin simultaneously. We could reach into the center of their body from above and remove the organ without ever touching the patient's 2D perimeter. This is the N+1 rule. By operating in the dimension immediately above a space, you gain total transparency and direct access to every internal point within that lower world. Applying this to our own 3D world, a four-dimensional observer wouldn't see your surface. They would see your skeleton, your circulatory system, and your internal organs, all laid out and exposed, just as we see the inside of a circle drawn on paper. This provides a way around our physical laws. A 4D being could reach into a locked bank vault or slide through a reinforced wall by moving through a direction we cannot perceive. To them, our solid barriers are just lines on a flat map. This perspective dwarfs ancient gods.
Zeus may control the weather, but he's a three-dimensional figure bound by the same physical walls that trap us. If a 4D object passed through our space, we would only see a 3D cross-section of it. It would appear as a sphere that spontaneously grows and then shrinks into nothingness, leaving us to witness a ghostly slice of a much larger reality. Albert Einstein proposed that we already live in a four-dimensional reality, where the fourth axis isn't a spatial direction, but time itself. If you could move through this fourth axis as easily as you walk across a room, the present would no longer be a cage. You could scroll through human history like a physical strip of film, visiting the past or the future as if they were different rooms. By inhabiting the fourth dimension, the walls of the physical world and the flow of time become transparent, granting you total agency over the rules that govern our 3D lives. String theory takes this logic further, suggesting that for the math of our universe to remain consistent, there must be even more dimensions. Without these additional directions, our understanding of how subatomic particles behave falls apart. These extra dimensions aren't vast open spaces. Instead, they are curled up at scales so small we may never see them, acting as microscopic tracks that allow fundamental strings to vibrate in specific patterns. As we move from the 5th to the 10th dimension, the logic of the line evolves. If 4D time is a single line of history, the 5th dimension adds a second vector, width, to that line. This creates a branching map where every quantum decision leads to a parallel universe with its own distinct history. Bosonic M-theory pushes this to the limit, mathematically predicting a reality with 26 spatial dimensions and 2 distinct axes of time. At this level, you cease to be a physical traveler. You become part of the underlying geometry of the multiverse,
observing every possible version of reality simultaneously. If we follow this geometric escalation to its theoretical conclusion, we arrive at a state of existing across infinite dimensions. Here, a being would occupy every point in every timeline and every possible universe at once. There is no here or there because you are already everywhere. But this creates a paradox. If you can see and occupy every possible future simultaneously, the act of making a choice becomes impossible. When all outcomes are already present, there is no next action to take. Without the ability to choose or change, cause and effect vanish. The infinite complexity of every possible reality collapses inward. This brings the journey to a silent end. A being that occupies all dimensions simultaneously exists in a state that is indistinguishable from the zero-dimensional point we started with, a single location with no size, no space, and nowhere left to go.